networking also plays into one line from your book that really struck me, which was, whatever your career stage, it's vitally important to be active rather than passive in your job search.
Yeah, that's true.
How can people take on that being active? And you talk in your book about creative career management.
Well, and that sounds fancy, doesn't it? But what it really means is taking control of the levers for yourself and understanding that you actually improve the odds by doing so. So if you're passive, what you tend to do is to use job boards or apply to advertise vacancies, and they're often known in the marketplace these days as candidate magnets. In the graduate marketplace, an interesting advertisement in a national newspaper or even an online one for a graduate role, they can easily attract 1,000 people. So your chances of getting through, even if your CV is brilliant, are very, very slim. Sometimes they also put themselves in the hands of recruitment agencies without really understanding how that's a relationship that you need to build, and you have to have fantastic clarity about what you're looking for. So the other side of the coin would say, well, what happens if you are active is that you understand that reaching out to people to discover what's out there, and I really want to emphasize that, don't call it networking. Change that word in your brain to something more like interesting conversations, face-to-face research, finding people that are interesting. It doesn't really matter what you replace it with. As soon as you do that, what you're actually doing is making yourself visible to a very different kind of job market. And that is when people say I was lucky because and I just met somebody. Well, you don't just meet people, but that kind of happens because you're looking and you're out there. And certainly when the phone rings and says, here's something that you might like to look at, here's an opportunity you could be interested in, that's probably because of something you've done actively. Active behavior sometimes means direct approaches to organizations, but it generally means telling people what you're looking for, reaching out, making sure that what limited time you have available, that you are talking to people face to face.
That's true. And again, it's only as I've got older that begin to realise just how big the hidden job market is. So after university, I applied to, my focus was on the big graduate schemes and the big online applications, without really thinking that 95% of the other jobs were out there, and it's about making connections and speaking to people.
Well, that's really interesting, that, James, because I think that that's such a common story that people with pretty good degrees, they apply for those schemes and they don't get very far, and they don't get much feedback. So that's off-putting anyway. And then what they tend to do is kind of gradually work their way down the scale very fast to taking fairly low-level jobs. So it easily becomes, well, if I can't get the difficult thing, I'll just do the easy thing. Now, the problem with taking a low-level job is how long you're going to stay in it, and what that actually does in terms of shaping your CV. So a mid-range compromise might be to say, well, that's the obvious route. What's the less obvious route? And again, this is where talking to people helps, because you're not saying, give me a job or tell me where the job vacancies are. Often what you're doing is finding people who studied 2 or 3 years before you and saying, tell me your story. How did you get there? Who should I be talking to? What other organizations are out there? Yeah, so it does make a huge difference, and you really have to watch out for this kind of the rules of the game are not working for me, so I'll lower my sights to the bottom level.
And you talk in the book about A to Z thinking, so just moving like that.
Perhaps I better explain what A to Z thinking is. A to Z thinking is kind of the thinking we use for project management. The problem is in a diverse and kind of chaotic job market where things are being created and lots of jobs aren't advertised, you can't just sort of say, well, I'm going to set my sights on that role and that organization and work towards it like I'm managing a project. A better metaphor would be you're going to probably have 5 or 6 career ideas, and these are plates that you're going to have to spin. And even without necessarily saying that's the perfect answer, 5 or 6 is great because it means you're constantly having to say, who do I speak to next? What do I follow up? what connections can I make? What bits of research do I need to do? And even with somebody that says, well, I'm really busy, I'm in my last year at university, I'd always say to them, well, if you only find half an hour a week to do some of that, then get the maximum leverage out of that half hour.